couple of you were probably hoping that you never had to talk to me again. You're stuck with me for a little longer, I guess. But first thing I'd like to do is something that I know all of you are running around waiting to ask me, and there's been some clarity on some things, and I want to kind of get that out of the way, and and then speak about what this is about, which is a celebration of a great group of guys that are standing in the back of the room, and the opportunities that lie ahead of us moving forward. Eric Cobb and Jamal Gregory are no longer with us. We've all agreed that it's best for them to move on, and they were great for us here this past year. They helped us tremendously, and that decision's been made. And the other three young men continue to be suspended. We continue to engage in conversations with them and figure out what the next step's going to be with them. But that's where that stands at. Obviously, as we continue this conference here, I'm really not going to get into details about anything other than what I just said there. With that said, I want to start this before I thank a lot of people. I want to start this with something, and this is why I asked the players to be in the back of the room, because I've been out of town. My wife and I got off a red eye at 10:30 this morning, so I have not seen the players since Coach Tanner and I agreed on this continuing to be our home for a lot longer. But a couple years ago, some of them might start laughing back there because some of them weren't in the room when I said this. But, I expressed to them a couple years ago, I said, hey, listen, this is what you guys unfortunately have been told the wrong way. I said, I get paid a lot of money that I had no idea that I'd ever be willing to make. But the unfortunate part is you got people telling you that I get paid a lot of money because of you. And I told them at the time, I said, they're lying to you. Because when I signed my contract, when I accepted the job here, none of them were players here. I was making a lot of money, and I accepted the job here because of the unbelievable people who have been a part of my life before I ever stepped foot on this campus. And I said, in moving forward, maybe in a couple years, I'll be able to sign another contract. And if I sign another contract, then you guys will become part of that brotherhood that I am indebted to the rest of my life. And that's what they have done. That group of guys that's standing in the back of the room have sacrificed to give us an unbelievable team, an unbelievable group of people, a group of guys that I just absolutely love to come in here every day and challenge, to grow, to get better. And that's why I asked them. They have a meeting with Scott. And before they met with Scott, I asked them to come in here because they had no idea I was going to say this. But those that were in the room, I'm sure they remember me saying that. I actually said a couple other things in there about the way we were playing and what I should be compensated in exchange for the way that we were playing. And but long story short, I just wanted them to know that I'm extremely thankful for their sacrifices. Whether it's the players or the staff back there, that it's allowed me and my family to be able to continue to call Columbia home. Okay? Guys, I know I needed you guys to hear that. I didn't want to tell you guys that in public. In private, I wanted you to know that in public. Scott, you guys can stay if you want to take them for that meeting you had that I just messed up for you. Either way, okay? A couple things moving forward before I let you guys drown me with questions here, which is what this is all about. Like I just said, celebration for all those guys in the back room moving forward, and also a day to the last probably since Friday, just sitting around and reflecting on the past 4 years and how thankful I am for the leadership of this university. It's whether it's Gene War, Dr. Floyd, our incredible president, Harris Pastides, his vision, his commitment to reform, to do more for our student athletes, not just here on our campus, but across the country. He's been willing to take on that job in a very difficult time. A lot of people would run away from that responsibility at this time because everything's so sensitive. He's taking it on. And then, obviously Ray Tanner, Coach I don't, I've been gone, so I really don't know what has been said and not said. But I'll say this so you understand the why I have the respect I have. He was probably catching, I shouldn't say he was catching because that makes it sound like I deserved the contract. But he was probably having to answer questions as to why. I know Phil asked me the last month of the season, every time I sat in front of you guys, why I had not signed the contract. And he did it out of respect to me. I asked him back in December that if things were going to engage in conversations, once conference season started, I get too emotionally involved. Things, you guys see me. You guys see the way I am. I'm an emotional guy. I can't just kind of say, whatever, deal with it. I just couldn't do it. I asked Coach that if he could please wait to the end of the season. I never heard peep from that again. And that continued. As time passed, the respect I had for that continued to move the needle in the way that it's always moved in my time around Ray Tanner. And then obviously Kevin O'Connell, who's, Kevin sits there every single day, and he's bled with us. And as we go through our journey of trying to build this program, there's been some difficult post-game moments in that locker room, and some lonely walks down the hall here right behind us. Because as coaches, we kind of sit here in front of you, and we got to kind of let the world know that things are going to be okay, regardless of how gloom and doom they look. But once we get away from the cameras and the light, because if we show any kind of pain, then or disappointment, then everyone that we're trying to get excited about our program, whether it be our players or our fans, then they're going to feel the same way. We don't need that. So we have to make sure that we keep a positive place publicly, but then we're human beings in private, and we struggle with some things. And Kevin has sat there with me through some difficult moments. And, but this is, as we continue to grow this program, I can't tell you how excited I am. The direction this university is going, setting records in attendance, records in wins, just unbelievable. And then the last thing I'm going to say, and that's why I asked her to come here today, is if for some reason I had picked up the phone and I told Coach Tanner that I had decided to talk to another school or go to another school, I would have gotten absolutely assaulted and beat up at my house. And that's my beautiful wife, Anya. She in no way, shape, or form was going to allow me to leave this community. We as a family love it here, and she's happy. My kids are happy. I'm happy. So it's a perfect marriage. It's a perfect marriage. It's the family's happy. I'm happy professionally. I love the people I work with and work for. Love the program where it's at from where we were at 4 years ago. So, like I said, a lot to be happy for, a lot to celebrate as we move forward.
Frank, coming in here, I guess, 4 years ago, and then really after your first year, you've spoken on it many times, but just how difficult did you find the challenge to be, and how rewarding is it to be sitting here and knowing that you kind of conquered those odds and you have a really bright road in front of you?
Dave, I as a fan and a young coach, I listen a lot. If you ever hear me speak to young people, all I talk about is listening. I just spoke to young people in Houston, and all I kept continue to harp on and preach was listen. Don't make the mistake of not listening, because then you got no one to blame but yourself. And the one thing I've always done is I tried to listen and listen and listen, and nothing bothered me more than when coaches took over new programs and they found negativity on what had happened before. I think that's just a way to create a safety net to kind of protect yourself. I'm not going to sit here and speak about good, bad, indifferent. When I got here, I thought I understood some of the challenges. I really didn't. I understood the basketball challenges on the court. I had no idea what the challenges were off the court. Once I started learning those, I realized it was going to be a little more complicated than originally thought. And but to know that 4 years later, set a school record for regular season wins, tied a school record for total wins, or whatever we were, 15-0 for the first time since 1933, or just keep going, set an attendance record. You just keep going, keep going, keep going. It's to now, like I told you guys a month ago, it's hard to sit back and appreciate that when you're still in the fire. You're trying to figure out a way to get through the fire. And now that we're out of it, and I've been able to be on airplanes here for the last 10 days to, I get away from this stuff. So you think a lot. And I couldn't be happier with the progress that when I say we, I mean all of us, the community, the players, administration, the coaches. I mean, me too. You have to understand. I talk all the time about, coaching our players, and when they make mistakes, and it's like raising your own son. You have to deal with them. You can't just act like it's no big deal. And playing basketball is a privilege. I stubbed my toe, and I was dealt with. And at the time, I didn't like it. But you know what? I respected it. And 3 years later, I'm better for it. And I'm more appreciative of the people I work with and for, because they were willing to help me. And it's the same thing I try to preach to our players as they go through their educational phase. And it's a special place. You're dealt with honesty here. There's a family. You hear a lot of people preach family, and then you actually walk in their home and there ain't no family. Here, it is a family, and it's an unbelievable support from across the board for everybody. Coaches, administrators, staff members, Emily, Josh Waters in the back, Jeff Crane. I just keep going on down the line. It's an unbelievable support group to help coaches move forward and help the most important part, help the coaches, help the young people have an unbelievable experience here.
Talk about the progress and where it is now, and then added onto that the 6-year extension. How much does that help you as you do go out on the trail, and as you talk about when you're out on those planes, that you're trying to get the basketball program better going forward?
Yeah, it's Brian, the commitment from this university towards our staff is incredible. To allow us to do our jobs has been incredible. To help us do our jobs, been incredible. I remember one of the first conversations I ever had with Coach Tanner. I spoke to him as a baseball coach, and we commiserated. Then all of a sudden, 6 months later, he's an AD. Now it no longer was commiseration. Then it was like, boss employee. But one of the first things he ever said to me as the athletic director here, he said, "Tell me what prevents you from doing your job so I can take that off your plate." And I said, "Wow." I said, that's pretty strong. That's because at the end of the day, what we're all trying to do our jobs, and my job is to kind of facilitate our assistants' jobs so they can perform better. And one of my first conversations with him was, what do I need to take off your plate that prevents you from doing your job? And that's what we've gotten around here. We've gotten unbelievable support and clarity. Honesty, things that I value tremendously, in allowing us to do our jobs, and consistency. But the 6-year extension is ecstatic. I mean, I'm ecstatic because I'm going to be given the opportunity to finish the job that we came here to do. We're not there yet. We've done a lot of good. From where we were at to where we're at now. There's a lot to celebrate, but there's still so much more to do. We're not near what we need to be. We're in a better place. We're in a better place in every facet, but we're still not where we need to be when you put everything together. And I'm not talking about NCAA success or all that stuff. I'm just talking about as a program, what you pay attention to every single day. We still have to be a lot more consistent in a lot of the things that we do. And when we learn to do that, then those end results will be better than 25 wins or whatever what we had this year.
Frank, how quickly after the regular season ended did you go from, I mean, there had to be thoughts of what the heck do we have to do in order to get to the NCAA, to thinking about, this is a place where there's honesty and integrity and we're building and, it's good for my family. How quickly did you move from that line of thought, the negative line of thought, to the more positive, hopeful line of thought?
Pete, I've been on that proverbial NCAA bubble 4 times. I'm 1-3. That bubble, it's like playing blackjack in Vegas. It's not good. We got left out last year, Cincinnati. Got left out first year at Kansas State. We got in my first year as a head coach at Kansas State, and then obviously the experience this year. It's not fun. The emotional roller coaster that you go in on during that Sunday is not fun. What makes it even harder is, like, you got, Michael's still in the back of the room. I don't know if Menda and Lamonis are still there or not, but those guys don't get the chance to do it again. And that's a difficult moment for a coach when you know that you got players that have left it on the line for you, and they're not going to get that opportunity. Now, when was I able to separate that? I separate that every day, Pete. I didn't need the season to end for that one. I'm in direct communication with my bosses, with my peers here on this campus every day. I never once was felt like I was getting backed into a corner because of an NCAA tournament or because of a one-loss situation during a game or because of the final record of a season. I've never felt that way. And maybe it's also me when the first year you coach as a head coach at Division I, after being a school teacher, after being fired as an assistant coach making $28,000, you don't really worry about those things. You worry about your players. You worry about your team. You worry about making sure that you do your job to the best of your abilities to keep your bosses happy. That's it. That's all you worry about. But I don't control the NCAA. The only way you control the NCAA when it comes to postseason, win your conference tournament. Anything short of that, you're not in control of what they do. And, they got to make the decisions that they feel are right. That's why all you have to do is go back and listen to my sound bites since I've been a head coach. And you'll see I'm pretty consistent. I think we need more teams in the NCAA tournament. There's just too many good teams. Their parity is incredible. I don't know how many of you guys watched that first weekend. Would you say that was entertaining? So why not have 20 more teams, 10 more games? Why not? Are you kidding me? Those games were unbelievable. But it is what it is. I mean, that doesn't help us, and that's not a scapegoat for us. We didn't get it done. But I don't ever combine postseason experiences with my job situation. I know where my job situation is every single day, and I've never ever had any doubts in my mind. Where anyone that I deal with every day, where they stood at. I knew where I stood at, and I knew where they stood at. And the postseason part's unfortunate.
Your name was linked to a couple of different jobs. Is it flattering to have your name tossed out for other head coaching jobs, or is it more of a problem? And also, when meeting with Ray, what were the conversations like? Was it a pretty easy process for you?
Yeah. Did they link my name with any jobs the 2 years before? I don't want to use the word, but I am. It's the stupid part of our business. You know, all of a sudden you win 20 games and everyone thinks that you're smarter than you really are. Or when you win 15, then people think that you're dumber than you really are. Just, you know, we overreact to a record of a given season sometimes. You know, heck, I worked with Brad Underwood. I know I'm smarter than him, but right now everyone thinks he's smarter than me. I understand that. No, it's I'm ecstatic for him, by the way. But my conversations with Ray have always been like just straightforward. I mean, there's no. It didn't change when it. I'm telling you, I said I don't want to do this till the season ends. I never heard peep from that again. And when the season ended, I asked for 2 days so I can kind of gather my marbles, so I can actually invest my emotions into the important things moving forward for our program to continue to take steps forward. And we did that. And then we sat down and we visited. I left the room like I've always leave when I walk away from a conversation with Ray. I know the truth was told, and I knew I had a guy that's my boss that is completely on board to helping us build this program. And anytime you feel that way, it's that's why you don't go back and second guess anything. You move forward and you get excited about what's in front of you.
Having to dismiss the two guys, I mean, you recruited these guys.
Come on, Phil.
You
I thought this was a celebration here. We
Well,
were
no,
celebrating
no,
the future.
just gotta let me finish my sentence.
Yeah, but
You recruited these guys and you check out their backgrounds and all this sort of stuff. So when something like this happens, how does it affect you as a coach? Do you feel like you failed in some fashion, or is it totally on the players' side that they failed you and failed your program and your university?
it's everyone's got a little blame when those moments take place. I don't think you can put a blame on one person. I just said this this weekend. I did a bunch of media stuff down in Houston, and when you're in education, you're not into blame. You don't try to figure out problems so you can blame somebody. You figure out problems so you can teach and educate, and everybody can learn. And anytime you go through an unfortunate moment with a young person, everyone did their part to not do things as well as they can, that need to be done. I go through moments like that, Phil. That's my biggest struggle. It's not losing. You lose a game, you let that go pretty quick. That's why I joked about between the Georgia Conference game and the High Point game. I said, I can do this 10 times a year. This feels pretty good. You lose a game, you get 2 days to kind of gather your marbles, then practice for 4 days and go play another game. I said, I can do this 10 times a year. It'd be a whole lot of fun. But when you coach basketball, and Ray would have to answer this, baseball's the same way. You better have short memories with wins and losses. And you can disengage from the previous day pretty quick when you're trained that way. But when young people make mistakes, that one sticks with you. That one sticks with you because it's you get into education not to collect a paycheck. You get into education because your paycheck is helping others, watching people grow, and anytime you feel that you failed somebody, you flunked that week's paycheck, and that's those are the difficult moments in coaching. Everyone thinks it's the losses and all that. You get past those pretty quick. It's the people that you deal with day in and day out.
Frank, just looking, kind of a two-part question. One, has anybody like Sendarius talked to you about maybe testing the NBA waters? And two, are there any other guys besides the five that you don't anticipate being back?
John, what'd they tell you? John had that conversation with them. I still haven't had that conversation. It's I don't do end of season player meetings as soon as the season ends. Some coaches do. I have no idea why. That's their business. I'm visiting with players tomorrow, Wednesday, and I think I got one on Thursday. So I'm sure those conversations will take place between us I don't think I meet with Sindarius till late Wednesday. I don't meet with him tomorrow, I don't believe. But I don't know. They might do it, might not. They haven't led me to believe that they are, but they haven't led me to believe that they're not. You know, it's their right. There's things put in place that allow them to do that if that's what they choose to do.
Frank, that's a roster question too. I mean, obviously, with the two guys dismissed, you lose 3 senior starters. We don't know the other 3 still up in the air. That seems like a lot of people to replace or find new roles there. What's the plan going forward? I mean, is it just like you said, recruiting is 24/7 all the time? Is that what this offseason or this next stretch is going to be about? Getting rebuilding the roster.
Sindarius, Dwayne, PJ. Those are the 3 guys that played majority of the minutes at the guard spot. They all come back. If you want to be good at basketball, you better have good guards. You know, you can have a great shortstop. Your pitcher stinks. That shortstop's irrelevant. You understand what I'm saying? You better have good guards. Our guards, they understand. The PJ will be so much better next year than he was this year. You know, we got a taste of him early in the year, what he can do, and as the year went on, he just smiled. Before I left town, Tuesday, I met with them. I left town on Wednesday. So I met with them on Tuesday. He smiled. I hadn't seen him smile in a long time. You know, he'll be so much better next year. You know, Sindarius at the end of the year was playing like, wow. You know, people say the light came on. It's not that the light comes on. He just, you know, some people handle things a certain way at different times, and the basketball he played at the end of the year was powerful. You know, he's a rock. You know, Justin Mackey, Justin's there every single day. You know, so those guys are in place. You know, Ray Doby, you know, obviously had moments as a freshman to help us. The 3 guys that are still in suspension, you know, we'll continue to deal with them. And obviously 2 of those 3 played a lot for us here in the past. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. And here's as a coach, you don't want to deal with a rotating roster. That's not because you invest time to help them grow. You want to see the next Michael Carrera. You don't want to have a freshman Michael Carrera every single year. You know, you want to be able to see the guy grow. That's what helps you build a program. That's what helps you win games consistently. And getting back to being a human being, that's what, as a coach, you get out of bed and you move for. You sweat for. You lose sleep for, is to watch those young people grow. The silver lining in all this, every school in America is in the same situation right now. So, you know, when you put 20 of us coaches in the same room, we sit around, we laugh because we're all in the same boat. You just don't know who's on your team. You don't know who's coming, who's going. And it's an unfortunate situation that's kind of developed here in our business. And like I said the other day, Pete, it's not a college problem. It's a high school problem. And, you know, kids play on one AAU team this week, a different one next week, a different one the third week. They go to 3, 4, 5 different high schools. We've created a cultural problem at the grassroots level. And they get to college, you know, the problem is that since we're the ones that are on TV, we're forced to deal with it. And so it looks like we're the ones trying to run people off and all that. Coaches don't want to run people off. It's not what we do. You know, you go out, like Phil said, you go out and you spend a lot of time speaking to counselors, teachers, assistant coaches, neighborhood people, to get a feel for what these young folks are like. You don't want to like bring them in and get rid of them. You know, you don't want to waste all that recruiting money to then turn around and as soon as you don't like the way they shoot a left-handed layup, send them down the river. It doesn't work that way. But the silver lining is we're all in the same boat right now.
What makes you think that PJ's ready to take the next step next year? And when you meet with him in the next couple of days, what are the things you stress to him to kind of work on this summer?
Yeah, well, what makes me think that, John, is I guess I'm gonna sound like a little bit of a smart you-know-what here, but look at the players that been in place in our program in my 4 years here that have gone from freshmen to sophomores and sophomores to juniors. It's what our guys do. We push them to learn, and the ones that embrace it and get excited about it, don't run away from the challenges, they get better. That's why you can take a Michael Carrera who came in here. I just said on a nationally syndicated show, Michael was a 6'5" center in high school, and in today's great stars rating system, he probably had negative stars. But when no one paid attention is that he played for one high school coach who's as good a high school coach as we've had in my lifetime in the country, in Stu Vetter. And he never ran away from Coach Vetter's disciplines and instructions. So when he gets to college with negative stars, he graduates as a 5-star first-team all-league player because he understands. He gets it. He understands that when coaches coach him, he's got to listen and get better. PJ's like that. PJ's no different than, think about Dwayne his freshman year. Think about Michael his freshman year. He came out like gangbusters. His first game ever, he had like 19 points, 14 rebounds or something. Then he went like on a 3-week hiatus. Hey, I didn't even know he was on the team, But it's kind of what happens. And PJ gets it. PJ's talent is there. His mind is there. Now he went through the difficult part, which is figuring out a way to deal with hard every day. And let's not remember one thing here. This season, when our season started, he was about a year removed from ACL surgery. A little bit more, 1.5 years or so. So it's coming, little by little, it's coming.
The SEC's been through the process of trying to make every member school upgrade their non-conference schedule. And now with Mike Tranghese coming on board as an advisor, I mean, what can he do that hasn't been tried before? Or is his reputation and the cachet of his name maybe enough to make people look at this league differently?
Yeah, I don't know what Mike's role is going to be. That's not, no one's explained that to us. I can tell you this, that there might not be a more respected person in college basketball than Mike Tranghese. So when he gets up in a room and he talks, I'm pretty sure that coaches, administrators, commissioners, they all kind of keep quiet and listen. He's that strong as far as his accomplishments, his vision, the kind of human being that he is. So him being a part of our conference, I think it's a huge plus. What else can be done? I've got my opinions, but I don't share those publicly. I share those with Ray. I share those in our league office. And then it's up to the leaderships in both. It doesn't mean that mine are right, but I don't share mine publicly. Those are things that we've got good people in place. We've got good people in place. This is the part that as a coach is hard to understand. And I'm quoting Ray on this one. I don't care what sport you pick. The SEC's putting 8, 9 into the postseason. Men's basketball, for whatever reason, it's a problem. And so we got to do a better job. We got to, my frustration is if you take our team name away from our record and you put that record in one of the other Power 5 conferences, that record gets you into the NCAA tournament. And that, me, human being coach, this is Frank Martin, not the head coach, University of South Carolina, that's frustrating. But we got to win more. We obviously didn't win enough. And we have to continue to do better so we can represent our conference better, so we can help solve this mystery puzzle right now that exists as far as SEC men's basketball.
Have you, I don't know if you're even a fan of this, but taking one of the overseas trips or going somewhere for the summer and playing, I think you get like 8 or 10 games. I think you can do that every 4 years. Have you talked about doing that or thought about doing that, whether it's this summer or next summer or anytime soon?
Hun, he's the one that always gets me in trouble. Just so you know. Just so you know. Just so you know. That's the plan. That's the plan. And Coach and I have been talking about that. Coach Tanner, that is, and I've been talking about that. And because of some of the leadership guys in place, with some new faces coming in, this might be the summer to do it. But yes, that's extremely beneficial. Can't do that very often because then your team burns out. Yeah, I don't even know if that's still I don't. We haven't been in one since I've been here because I didn't think it was something we needed. But we're at a place now where it's important. We've learned to win now. Now it's a matter of doing our best job we can to prepare our team. You know, you take those trips, and you don't know how to win. What are you going to do? Just, go whatever. The part about those trips that are tremendous is that it's not just basketball, because it's you get 10 days of practice, which as a coach is huge because you get to actually, practice, not do groups of 4 for 2 hours a week in the summer. But it's also an educational thing. Like when we do those things, we don't just go there and show up and shoot half-court hook shots now. We show up, and whatever country you go to, you take a professor with you. They got to write papers. It's a pretty intense thing. It's a pretty intense thing. But you get those practices, which is what matters. And this might be the year to do it. I've got all day. I don't have to run practice.
We do too, and we've been fed, so that's another good thing.
They fed you?
Well, I passed on it, but
Wonder whose idea that was.
the fate of the suspended 3, is that in your hands or Ray's hands or official legal authorities here in Columbia?
Are they in trouble with the law? Do you know? If you know something I don't know, please let me know. No, I didn't know they were in trouble with the law. They're in trouble with Frank Martin law. I didn't know they were in trouble with the law. Ray's very supportive of us coaches managing our discipline within our own program, and we communicate. He knows where I'm at. I know what he expects. I know what Dr. Pastides expects. 4 years ago, I had no idea. 4 years later, I understand what's expected by our students to be represented the right way at all times, not just when things are good. It's my call right now, Phil. I'm the one that's being difficult. And, when the time comes, I'll figure out what I'm going to do with them. And obviously, Ray will be very involved in my final decision there. But I'm the one that's being difficult with this situation right now.
Frank, with the talk about numbers and RPIs and strength of schedules, do you have to have that in the back of your mind as you make out the non-con schedule for next year? And are there any games besides Seton Hall that you can tell us about?
Yeah, this is what I am going to say, and me saying this, might get me in trouble, but it's okay. Every game on our schedule was approved by the league office. It's not like we sent in a certain team and then we decided to schedule someone else without sharing it with anybody, okay? The problem is the following. The problem is, which I've said it jokingly, but I'm telling you, I'm getting ready to start putting this in contracts. If people's leading scorers transfer in the summer, we're voiding contracts, no penalty fees paid. Because when you put a schedule together, and I'm not going to tell you I've got life figured out, because I don't, but I pay attention to scheduling. And I think every team's different. You know, if you've got Kansas's senior leadership or Michigan State senior leadership, and not just because we had seniors, but their seniors have played in Final Fours, national championships, and 4 straight NCAA tournaments, okay? You schedule according to your team, but you have to schedule in a way to not disrespect your conference. And when the teams you schedule that are the games that are supposed to be the strong games for you end up being 275 RPI teams because their teams transfer out in the middle of the summer, I'm telling you, we all sit around, we laugh. We don't know what to do. You know, it's hard to go back then and say, well, they scheduled the wrong teams. Well, when you schedule Memphis and they're a preseason top 20 team with Austin Nichols and he decides to leave in the middle of July, when you schedule St. John's, who returns 4 starters from an NCAA team and 3 of them get middle of summer, when you schedule Drexel, who 3 starters sat out last year, so they bring those 3 back, plus the leading scorer in the country, and he decides he's out in the middle of summer, those are 3 games that you don't expect to win. You go into those games saying, we can figure this one out. We're getting a good bang for a dollar on this one now. And unfortunately, we win the games and we're penalized for winning. And, you know, that's, you know, Dave, that's the part that makes scheduling a little difficult. My whole deal is this. If you lose the bad teams, okay, you should pay the piper. We didn't lose the bad teams. You know, we won our games. We won all our we didn't lose the good teams. We didn't lose the bad teams in non-league play. We won all our non-league games. And, you know, and then in conference play, you know what we did? We lost road games in February. Tell me one team that doesn't lose road games in February across the country. So I've never heard of a bad conference loss on the road the last month of the season. It's hard to win on the road in conference play, let alone the last month of the season. But for whatever reason, winning at Arkansas, winning at A&M wasn't celebrated or thought of being equally great as losing at Mississippi State and at Missouri the other way. Like losing those 2 games, we were viewed as failures, frauds, no good. Beating Arkansas at Arkansas, that not too many people do. Beating one of the top 10 teams in the country in their building, which we were the only team to do that all year. Those weren't celebrated the same way that the other 2 were frowned upon.
Sticking with non-conference, how important is it to you to keep continuing to go back up to the Northeast region with, you know, events against like Seton Hall at Madison Square Garden, the Barclays Center, stuff like that, for recruiting and for exposure?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. That's it's eventually I'm gonna start bringing those Northeast teams down this way too now. You know, it's here's the problem. The biggest problem we face in scheduling. I've shared this before, and I'm gonna say it again. 4 years ago, we had no chance of getting any of those teams on the schedule, let alone at home. It wasn't happening here. Now we're starting to get people to play us on neutral sites. We're starting to get people because I'm not going to say we're relevant, but you know we're kind of making ourselves into a pretty good basketball team, and people want to play those kind of games. As we continue to go out and win these games, then we can start getting some games in return back here. But playing in the Northeast is important. We've got a huge Gamecock following up there. Those games we've played in New York, like when we played Iowa State 2 years ago at the Barclays, we had so many Gamecocks there, it was unbelievable. And this year in Connecticut, we had another strong showing of Gamecocks up there. There's a lot of Gamecocks up that way, a lot of them. And then obviously from a recruiting standpoint, you know, basketball's big up the Northeast corridor. You know, once you get north of here and keep going up that Atlantic Ocean, going up that way, basketball's a powerful sport up there that a lot of people play and a lot of people live and die for. and I mean that literally. And that's how important the game is to them, and that's important to us. We've always recruited it. We recruited it at Cincinnati. I recruited it at Northeastern. I recruited it at Kansas State, and we're trying to recruit it here too. Phil, I'm not giving you an exact date when the suspensions are going to end.
No. I was just wondering, on Selection Sunday,
Yeah.
when the junior staffer sent his text to your folks,
Yeah.
Where were you? When did you get that message? Did you think when you heard that we're in, or did you already know otherwise?
Yeah, it's crazy, Phil. It was crazy. I felt the whole time we were in the tournament. There's no way we were going to be out of the tournament. You're asking me, but I don't have a vote, okay? Based on the fact, and I'm gonna tell you, since you asked, you opened up Pandora's box. Last question might take forever, okay? All right. And I'm not going to talk about other schools because I don't want anyone speaking about my team, okay? But when you have more wins away from home than 3 teams that are in the tournament put together, when you have more top 100 teams than 3 teams that are in the tournament put together, when you win 24 games, when you're 4 games over 500 in a Power 5 league, in the history of that tournament, those numbers have proven that team goes to the NCAA tournament. So because of those facts, when I'm looking at our resume versus other resumes that are out there, which I had time to do since we got beat Friday. I had nothing to do Saturday, so I started figuring this out a little bit. And I'm looking at these things. I'm comparing. I'm saying there's no way they keep us out. I don't care what happens. I don't care what the RPI says. Can't keep us out when you compare our factual numbers versus other people's numbers. Because let's get through the RPI number. Okay, so I think ours ended up like 64 or something like that before the postseason. 62, 64, somewhere in there. Okay, so that means that the teams we beat that ended up having not good years, that had RPIs of 250, are they that much better than the teams that finished with a 48 RPI because the ones they beat had a 180 RPI instead of 250? You understand what I'm saying? That's, at the end of the day, that's the difference between a 48 RPI and a 62 RPI. That we've got 4 wins against 220 plus. Some other team has 4 wins against 160 to 180. That's the difference in the RPI number, okay? So in my mind, we're in. I get home from church, and all of a sudden, Frank, old Lenardi just said, you're out. I was like, oh boy, that's not good. Because he's pretty good with I don't know how good he is with the teams, but he's pretty good when he starts shuffling teams at the 11th hour. He's pretty good with who's in and who's out. And so then we had the room full of folks at the Alumni Center. We had the players in our locker room, and and the players are watching, and we're kind of standing behind. And show starts, and you get a text message. Shortly after, the brackets are leaked. I'm not going to give you any more detail than that right now because then it sounds like I'm trying to blame somebody. And this has been a great tournament. This is not about, gets back to what I said earlier, it's not about trying to find whose fault it is to make somebody lose their job. That's not what this is about. It was an unfortunate situation. What I'm trying to share with you is the emotion that you're dealing with as a coach. So here, you got something saying you're good. On this side of you, you got something telling you you're not good. In front of you, you got a group of guys that have sacrificed every ounce of their energies to get you in. What do? And you're sitting there saying, are we in or are we out? This is crazy. This league bracket can't be true. Then the second board goes up, and it's identical to what the league board is. And then you start getting phone calls from the in-the-know media folks trying to get you to comment on, Frank, you got left out. And the show isn't even over. And in the meantime, you've got those kids sitting there at that TV set trying to figure out, God, there's still 2 more boards left. You know, we still got hope. And you know, you can't go in there and say, hey, it's not happening. You can't do that. So you got to kind of swallow that pill, and then your mind goes from the excitement of getting in to how am I going to handle this moment as soon as the players find out that we're not in, to make sure that they realize that what they've done is still special for where it matters in that room, and then go address a crowd of folks that showed up because they were invested in our program, and they were getting ready to be scarred by you know, a decision that they had no idea, you know, with that whole text message deal. And if we were into blaming for that text message, that would have been leaked that same night. You understand what I'm saying? We weren't into that. We weren't into that. That's an unfortunate situation. You know, am I happy that our guys were the recipient of that emotion, that moment? No. You know, it's would I rather that have happened to someone else? Absolutely. But you know, we all learn from it. We all learn from it, and you know, we just I know Ray feels the same way. We're you know, we couldn't ask the NCAA to be any more transparent and clear than what they were in that moment, you know, and expressing what happened there. And that's the unfortunate circumstance there that you asked me kind of the way that was going that night. Well, imagine if I was standing behind you, Phil, and you were watching the screen behind me, hoping that your name was coming up on the screen, and I'm standing behind you with information that's saying that you are and information saying that you're not. And you're trying to figure out which one's true and which one's not. And eventually you realize that it's not going to happen. And, you know, and your job is to make sure you keep those people's spirits in the right place. But I told you opened up Pandora's box. You know, it's that the RPI is just a misleading number. You know, it's a misleading number. It's because if you beat 2 top 25 teams, that makes your number look a lot better than what it really should be. You know, if I lose to 2 teams that are in the 200, and you lose to a team at 150, it makes the number a lot different than it needs to be. You understand what I'm saying? And, what matters is those 6 months. You know, did you win? Did you lose? Who'd you beat? Who'd you lose to? Where'd you play at? Where'd you win? Those are the things that should matter. And, you know, unfortunately that happened. And, you know, and the last thing I'll say for all that, we might be the only team in the country that was not given any credit on the proverbial bubble, that was not given any credit for playing in a conference tournament against a team that won 19 games without a first-team all-league player on the court because of injury. You know, it's, you know, I've had people say, Frank, you ever thought of playing Michael? No. You imagine what I'd feel like today if we'd gone to the NCAA tournament and he had completely torn his groin trying to play in that game? Now his life starts like later on tomorrow when I meet with him about agents and Portsmouth and everything else he's got. That's his life. That's the next 35 years of his life. Can you imagine if he would not have an opportunity to do that starting tomorrow because I would have allowed him to play in that game? And, you know, it's, you know, he wanted to. He tried to hit me over the head with his crutch, but, you know, we weren't going to let it happen. Just weren't going to let it happen. So you guys are stuck with me for 6 more, Phil. Appreciate it.